Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Peace Pipe TV. I am Phoenix, and this is.
Miko Wolf.
We are so glad that you all are here. And like always, you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you are here with us. Today, we're going to be diving into a discussion about the original inhabitants of the world. We're talking about global original inhabitants, not those, not just focusing on Africa or America or just any particular continent. We want to talk about who was here originally all over the world. We have a very wonderful special guest here today. I am very proud to announce my friend, my brother, Curimeo Ahau. Thank you so much for being here. You want to say anything to the people?
Yeah, hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And Hawa, blessings.
Hey, this is my brother. We have been on 432 to Drop. He's actually on there still. So if you go over to 432 to Drop Radio, you can hear his broadcast there. Something I used to do years back. I used to read different historical books on there. So if you get a chance, do check them out. They have some fabulous information. Um, so first and foremost, I myself personally want to thank you for all the hard work you put in. I know that there are
Absolutely.
some people out there who don't get it, don't understand, and won't even try to understand. They have their own perspectives, but we here at Peace Pipe TV understand how much time and effort it takes, how much money and sweat it takes to put in this work. And like I said, you have been in this for years. Thank you, because you have given so much information to people who, I'm gonna just say it because we speak our minds here, who are too lazy sometimes to go out there and put in the work for themselves. So I am grateful and thankful that you are actually doing this with full confidence and letting your research that you have found speak for itself. So thank you. Thank you
Mm,
so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Just doing my part.
Absolutely. So before we dive in, I want the people to understand who you are, where you come from, your walk of life, and all that good stuff. So my first question to you is, how did you even embark on this journey? How did you decide one day that, you know what, I'm going to go do all this research and study? Where did that come from?
Well, it's kind of an interest I was kind of born with. What I mean is, I was always into history. That was my favorite subject. So I was always into like ancient past and stuff. It intrigued me for some reason. It's to me, it's more like an ancestral thing I carried. Um, I was also into like conspiracies and mysteries and things that people just couldn't explain, especially when it regards to like the past and history and stuff. And so that kind of like, as a child, just studying that even before the internet, subscribing to magazines, VHS tapes, all that, newspapers, like different, like Atlantis Rising, things like that. I was already out there, before a lot of people. Like people didn't think about these things as much as I did. At least people that I knew, around me at that time. But I was always interested into it. That kind of the thing about that is that if you approach it with the narratives, the false history that we are taught, indoctrinated with, that we are brainwashed with, you tend to run into dead ends, right? Because they're not telling us the truth, and you're going to run into these dead ends, and it becomes a mystery, and it becomes just guesses, and everybody just theorizing. So that's kind of what I realized, that history was really about people just theorizing, like really. When it comes to like real ancient original facts, like about the original people, ancient civilizations, the origin of things like that. And the thing is, you also go into a dark hole if you're not very, if you don't have the right foundation. I'm sorry if I'm babbling. I just want to kind of explain.
Oh, you're
Oh
good.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, because there's so many conspiracies and lies that you end up following that, and you end up in a dark world sometimes just following the conspiracies. It doesn't really lead you anywhere. Oh, people are controlling us, people, the history's a lie, but what? Let's get specific. Like what is, so it becomes more of a like a dark world, because then it's like hopeless, like, oh, we'll never know. They control us, they'll never tell us, so for me to run into like 432, the drug radio channel, eventually when I did, and I realized somebody was actually thinking the same way and proving it, and my thoughts as a child, and oh, we are, this more ancient, America's more than this, and the world has more, the history is more than what they tell us. Even though I was already into all that, but I was never in the right orientation. We weren't looking at home. We weren't looking here. We was always looking out of Africa, out of Asia, everywhere else they had us looking. And so we never had the correct way to research things because we were approaching it the wrong way. And he kind of helped me orientate myself to the correct orientation. Once from there, I'm like, okay, if I was right this whole time, what else? Let me go with my thoughts. I see he's doing it. I want to spread his message. I want to show people how you actually research by showing sources and correlating different things. And you have to have a discernment, you got to have a clear discernment. A lot of it comes with experience and then just finding out things along the hard way or whatever. But eventually I saw that in him, and I was like, if he's like that, anybody else can. If my thoughts are correct, what else can I be correct about? So I started researching a lot more deeper, going into the sources, because I'm good at that. I've always been doing that, digging through things. That's kind of how I got into the research of history. I also into video production. Along the way, I was a lot into video production, so that kind of I united both hobbies, both interests, and now I have my channel, and I kind of just went from there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. 432 to drop, calm drop. He is a very inspirational person, and he really does encourage you to get out there and do your thing. So I totally understand his push and motivation
Yeah.
driving you to get out there and do that.
Yeah, some of us surf the wave a lot harder than others, what I mean? Like
That's true. Yeah. That is true. All right. So, Nico, do you have any questions you want to start out with?
Yes. It's might jump around a little bit. Like it's not like any like order or anything. My first question would be, why do you feel Black Europeans are not known?
It's just the whole that out of Africa theories that makes us think that all so-called Black or Negroid people of the world came out of one place. So we disregard any indigenous history that so-called Negro people might have in Europe or any other continent. And accepting that and teaching that would actually force people to rewrite the history and correct the false narratives, which they don't want to do. Because one lie leads to another lie and to another lie, and there's just so many lies they would have to uncover, many layers of it.
Yeah. That actually brings me to one of your recent videos that you did, and it was the first Europeans had dark skin. And you brought up a lot of different resources from different things like different shows and stuff like that. You also had some scientific evidence, and genetic evidence as well. My first question is, why do you think that it's a hard thing for people to grasp that maybe the earlier inhabitants, not just in Europe, but all over the world, that they were dark skinned? Why do you think that's a tough thing for people to grasp?
I think it's a modern thing, like after the 1800s, it's just a concept of racism and just really just racism. That's more modern because, there was a point where, when most people are melanated or, it's not a thing, like, it's not a big deal. That's what I'm trying to say. That became a deal when history was divided into crayon colors, whitewashed, and that's when it becomes a deal, because now that we're correcting that, what they did, now they're saying we're blackwash, people just can't believe it, because then they start asking the question of, okay, so who am I? And that's a deep question that bothers them, and I understand that, that we all kind of act the same, it's not just one type of people that look a certain way. So it's a personal thing when it comes to that. And I think there's just, it's cognitive dissonance, that kicks in. So
I think it's interesting because initially that's people of color's question, right? Most Black people are asking that question, who am I, where I come from? And then when it's scientifically proven that people who populated the world, period, were of darker hue and complexion, why it becomes the reverse question now for the European or just a color skinned people. Well, who are we then? And where do we come from? How do we fit in this? I
Hmm.
think it's very interesting how those roles are starting to reverse.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How do you how did you find out about the Black Europeans? What led you up to that point to say, okay, well, these people were so-called Black. How did you find out about them?
That's a good question. I mean, let me see. I mean, there's so many things. First of all, like even before we realized there was actual Black European that might be indigenous or from another part of the world that might not be Africa, right?
Mhm.
We knew there was always Black European based on what the Moors were showing and all the statues we see and all the drawings, the icons in the church, and but we always had that notion these are all Africans, you know. So it's kind of not it's not wasn't such a big surprise for me. It was more of a surprise realizing that they might be from Europe, they might even be from Asia, they might be Asians, they might be from America, you know. Reading into people's genealogy, finding out. So first of all, we had to realize. Let me just try to break this down. We had to realize there was so-called Black Indians, right? And accept that like a reality. Once we were able to like see clearly that there was, it's not just part Indian. It's not at all because you mixed with African slaves. No, no, no. We're talking about real indigenous Aboriginal people to this
Mhm.
land that were so-called Negroid or what you would classify as Negroid or so-called Black. You know, um, once we got that acceptance, we had to like embrace that, and we started. We kept researching. At least I did. I kept researching. Uh, just the same way I found out that the Indians were being described as Black by going into the primary sources, going into people's genealogy and finding Indians in there. It's just so much that it's going to tell the story, and it's not just part, and it's everybody. Everybody's part Indian, also called Black folks. Eventually, oh, we Indian, right? So we go into it. You see, there's a trend there, and then a lot of things start not making sense. Like they start calling people mulatto. They start saying, "Oh, this is a guy who was half white because he's the son of a slave owner and a Black African." And when you look at the pictures of the child, the Black folks, so where's the mixture?
Exactly.
We know the parent is European for sure. So who's the Black one? If it's an Indian supposed to look a certain way and a European is supposed to look a certain way, why is this person so-called Black? Like the typical what you would call so-called Black people picture when they say Negro, they picture this West African phenotype, like you know that could be in American Indian, that could be European, and so that's what we were trying to realize. That's why the offspring was looking like that. So I started researching what these people would be and described like. I realized a lot of these Europeans were being called also swarthy, brown, black, dark, right, and then realizing there is no proof of any of these people actually being pale skinned. When we try to look for pictures or things, it's all drawings. We realize there is a whitewashing going on. And I don't know, just from there, doing people's genealogy, you find their European ancestors, and these people are being described as Black. There's
Oh yeah.
nowhere in there to say that it went from a white person to a Black person. How did it change? Where did it change? Where did it happen? And so we realized these are all false narratives because then we realized the slave owner wasn't really the slave owner. That was your grandma's husband. That was your great grandfather. He owned the land. He was a colored folk, free people of color, whether he's Indian or free European Black. We realized white was the status, not just complexion. We realized Moors were being called white. All Jews from Europe were being called white. That includes Sephardic Jews, who are people of color. So it's just so many things that led us to that. We started finding the books, Benjamin Franklin describing the people of the world, right in 1750, saying the white folks are the minority, or pale skin was the minority. We started finding the books of these royal people being described as so-called swarthy or Black. King James, Queen Elizabeth, the Huguenots, a lot of the colonists coming in as slaves or indentured servants, ending up in plantations. So that was one of the biggest things that helped me realize that is the so-called white servitude that they kind of downplayed to us in history. They want us to think all slaves were just African people coming in, being tortured and chained up. And the Kunta Kinte story, kind of like the image when it was actually white folks or Europeans or even people from Asia, Indians being enslaved like that too. So they're ending up in the same plantations, right? There's so many indentured servants from Ireland, Scotland, England, prisoners of war, convicts being kicked out of there. We start learning. This is all stuff I'm kind of like keep researching, right? And we realize they're going to Jamaica, to the sugar plantations and everything. So we're like, okay, so where's all the offspring for all these so-called white people? The Caribbean should be a lot paler. The Caribbean should be a lot paler. You know, it's not making sense because you start looking at the numbers of how many of these slaves from Europe came. It's a lot. Apart from the Indians, now add that with the Indians that are being enslaved, thousands and hundreds of thousands, millions, you know, 500,000 alone before 1552 in Central America. Before 1552 that you don't know about. What happened to them? Where did they go? Who did they become? So same thing with the Europeans. We started realizing these are Black Europeans that are getting rid of undesirables, and they're ending up in Jamaica and the Caribbean and the plantations in Virginia and everything. And they end up mixing with the American Indians, who are also people of melanated color, dark complexion as well. And all these people are getting grouped up, mixed together. Everybody's now colored, Black, African American. All right. So that's kind of like I can't, you know, it's a lot of other ways I figured out there was Black Europeans, like I was able to prove it, but that's kind of like in general, you know, just the videos show the journey we took and how we started finding out little by little. So, you know, I recommend everybody to, like, if they can, catch up on the videos for more specifics, you know.
Okay. Because you got several videos on that. I think y'all should
Yeah.
definitely go check that out. Check out his channel, period, because his channel is definitely a gem. Most definitely.
Oh, yes. So it's interesting you brought up about that the slave trade and how people were dispersed. A lot of people don't understand it. It actually started in the 1400s, back with the Portuguese. And those are actually Black Portuguese. You know what I mean? That came and went over to South America, took the people from South America, brought them back to Portugal, to Europe, some in Africa, then some to America, and then took the Indians from America, you know, the so-called Indians from America, and brought them to South America. And it's just been like this back and forth, traversing and mixing and mingling. And not only that, they had people who had to run those slave ports and things in South America from the Gold Coast of Africa, pretty much, right? So it's very interesting to really go back and see what transpired and what happened. And then you have the Spanish Inquisition and all of those things too that led to the Atlantic slave trade and stuff. So um, it's a long history to go back and actually see where these things happened and transpired, what initiated them and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So we have this thing here where people like to say that civilization started in Africa. Um, I'm getting on that because this is supposed to help disperse this whole migration pattern that transpired from the cradle of life in Africa that was supposed to have went and populated Europe, Asia, North Africa, Greenland, Iceland, all that stuff, and then onto the Americas. How do you view that that portion of our history? Because I don't see how we disperse from just one place.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about it, like the plants and the animals and how it's dispersed all throughout all the continents, why not people, you know? But what is civilization, you know? So the way people were able to civilize themselves, settle down, build cities and everything was through agriculture. That's what was the main thing that helped humans settle down, get out of the whole hunter-gatherer, supposedly, according to their history, right? And be settled down, have time to have leisure and build things, have sports, build ball games, have a community, governments, Um, when it comes to food crops and agriculture, though, you got to follow it. You got to really research this, and you'll realize that 600 out of 640 food crops in Africa are from the Americas. They originated in the Americas. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when we're talking about a real cradle of life, not just of civilization, but a cradle of life and civilization, we have 4 different regions in the Americas. No other continent has that has cradles of life. We're talking about South America, the Andes, Peru, Amazon. We got Mesoamerica. We got the Oasis America. That's a whole other part of the Americas people don't really talk about. We only know about Mesoamerica. So we got Arid America on top of Mesoamerica. And then we got Oasis America. These are all cradles of life. You can find the fossilized evidence of corn, squash. We're talking about 8,000, 9,000 BC. Right? We're talking about evidence of farming. Next to all these mounds, they're finding ancient mounds, evidence. We're talking about going back 5,000, 6,000 years. They have never found that in the supposed cradle of life in Mesopotamia on the other side of the world, where they named these places that they've never found. They don't have no fossilized squash or corn. Again, squash, corn, all from the Americas, right? And so why do they have all these things depicted in their walls and stuff? And these are native plants from America, So we know where the true cradle of civilization is when it comes to, we were the first doing farming, the birth of farming. I have a lot of videos on this, a lot of videos on corn and different agriculture here in the Americas. This is the stuff they leave out of our classrooms. They don't allow children or us to be able to look at what has been found and compare what has been found in other parts of the world. And so people can really see, well, wait, if you're finding all this evidence of fossilized farm, corn, fruits, vegetables, and then farming from thousands and thousands of years ago, like even in Caral Supe, Peru, where we got some of the oldest, if not the oldest pyramids in the world, older than the ones in Africa and Egypt and stuff. The whole pyramid complex that nobody ever talks about or they teach about. They had cotton. They were growing cotton. And this is the other thing, we're going to get to it. So they were growing cotton 5,000, 6,000 years ago, 4,000 BC. Like this is that gets left out. And not only just growing it, but commercializing, trading all over the world. So we're talking about people who got clothing, cotton, right? Like cotton, these are civilized people. These are not people hunting, gathering, trying to survive. They have time to grow cotton. They have pyramids. This is way before the dynasties of Egypt and everything, and Sudan and all those pyramids they got there, which actually looks like an Aztec pyramid, So when it comes to cradle civilization, there is no proof in Africa of any origin of civilization. All they piggybacking off is the out of Africa theory that humans came out of Africa. So they think civilization started there. And all those bones they found, in actuality, and I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but it's just truth, it's ape bones. They're not modern type humans. That's their proof that civilization started there. And then they say, well, Egypt was here. Really, was ancient Egypt really there? And we've debunked that. Like there's so much information now, not just with me. You got brothers like UBTV, got a whole series, right? America's Egypt. Like he has so much drop on that. Like I have so much showing that this was ancient Egypt. We got Osiris and Isis statues and being found in Salvador, Mexico. Like everything the primary sources write about when they came here, the Spaniards and the colonists and all these people exploring, right? Oh, they're like the Egyptians. They're like the Sumerians. They do this just like the Celts. They do this just like we do everything just like all the old world. But everybody had to come here probably to influence us. Instead of logically knowing that in geology, right, has been proven. I'm sorry if I'm taking long. I just want to.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
In geology, right, you got Louis Agassiz, the most famous geologist, which if you take geology in a college course, you have to study his book. geological sketches as part of your curriculum. He's the most famous geologist, all right? Louis Agassiz. In his book, Geological Sketches, Chapter 1, the very first chapter is called America, the True Old World. And right, what is he saying? Because he's showing you that the oldest, according to science, how they determine rocks and all this stuff, right? How old they are, right? That the oldest land out of the primordial waters, or the oldest land in the world, is here in the Americas, the Laurentian mountain chain, Canada, Quebec, going down to the Appalachians. That's very old land, very old land, the oldest in the world. So if you know that, if they would have taught us this stuff, we would think differently. Like, okay, if this is the oldest land, then you're finding all the old. When they're showing New Age stuff, dinosaurs, they're always in general talking about the Americas, right? Like they're like,
Right.
oh, ancient California, ancient Utah, ancient Arizona, ancient Nevada, ancient, so then Brazil, Costa Rica. Like you start seeing a pan, okay, and then you start realizing mammals, carnivores. Originating in the Americas, we got all the ancestor of all the animals here, like the elephants, lions. Like they found all that. This is the stuff they don't really push on us in school because we would think different. We were like, wait, why is all this? Then what is the true old world? You know. So when it comes to geology, this is the oldest. Agriculture, oldest. Pyramid building. So who really is or has more proof and can show it with the research that you find that this is an older world than so-called Africa, you know. And that's it. Like it's just so much. It's a lot. It's very complex. A lot of videos to explain this stuff, break it down. We're still breaking it down because it's a lot of lies and layers, you know, to break up.
I see.
Right. That was very well said. Everything you said. Very well said. Now, are there people where you are that know that so-called Black people are the indigenous people of the not only the planet, but like America?
There's some people there's conscious people, but in general, unfortunately, is I think it's even worse when it comes to like Spanish countries and French speaking countries, and they'll tell you themselves, you know, like people are more indoctrinated, more stuck on the beliefs. I would say English speaking or Americans from North America, USA, can be more open minded. No, yeah.
Right? Okay. Do you feel that you kind of answered this a little bit? Do you feel that there's a mixture of so-called Black people in America, i.e., like, are they not just one thing? Because everybody's not an Indian, everybody's not, a Black European. Do you feel like they mixed us all together?
I don't think it was like deliberate, like always. Like I'm gonna make sure they all mix, but it happened a lot. It happened a lot. Certain cultures like the Huguenots and a lot of the Sephardic Jews, they tended to mix a lot with the Indians. These were black folk. These were black Europeans.
Oh,
Uh, but when you start breaking down the last names that you carry, right, and we realize that a lot of these mean certain things, and that they we have found black Europeans coming in with these names and the chip manifest and the slave and all that. So it's 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 conjecture to say that all Europeans are white or that he was an African living in Europe. That's what they try to say. But no, we know that a lot of these names are indigenous to Europe, to indigenous melanated people, right? And you carry a lot of those last names. Like each generation you go up, when you do your genealogy, you have a new one on your mom's, on your dad and mom's. On your mom's side, always two new ones. But on your dad, you got the line right going up your dad. But on the women, there's always a new last name. And
oh,
their dad's always a new last name. So you got thousands of families in you. You got thousands of families in you. So to say that you're just Indian, it's just, unfortunately, this is a lot of I get a lot of like hate from there's the Pan-African community, right? And then there's the black only Indian community. Like they just,
mhm.
oh, if you're not black, you're an Indian. It's almost like they carry the pro-black mentality of Pan-Africanism into this new learning, and they just they're kind of doing the same thing. A lot of it's not based on genealogy; it's just based on looks. They don't even know their genealogy. So they're just
Exactly.
saying they're Indian, not knowing they might have Black European ancestors, is what I'm trying to say. Now, I'll make this statement right here, right? Until anybody can prove me wrong, right? Because this is from me 3 years of doing 3 genealogies a week for Black folks in a 3 year span. I'd say that you guys are the American Indians. You guys are the founding fathers. No separation. Both genealogies are in you. Some may lean more Indian, some may lean more Black European. You know, that's for you to find out. I'm not generalizing, and that's the thing. So people kind of get a little offended when I say that, and they think I'm just trying to make everybody European, but it's not. I'm trying to open up your eyes to something greater. And a lot of those Black Europeans might be tied to ancient America, anyways, before they ended up in Europe. So
Exactly. I see
So,
that. I do genealogy as well. And I see everything you're saying about the layers of different names and stuff like that, and the Black Europeans in there. It's a lot of that in there. And
yeah.
for anybody to disagree with you or even try to hate on you, that's how I know that they don't have their genealogy. They just, we call it over here meme scholarship. That's what they do. And they don't understand what they're talking about.
So it's a little weird because exactly. So all these last names, right, that you see, right, you notice all these every time you go up, you got another last two last names, another, right? Like so
Hmm.
now, how did you get those last names? So if are you trying to go with the whole, oh, that's a slave master name now, but you're a Black Indian, so which one is it? Are you a Pan African or you're an Indian, right? Like that slave thing is out the door, right? Like we know it's not African slaves that were brought, is what I'm trying to say in general. It was other people being enslaved, Indians, Europeans, undesirables, some Asians, Southeast Asians, they were being brought to South America and the Caribbean. These are black, Negroid, Negritos, they call them, right? The Southeast Asians. So you might have a little bit of that as well, too. Depends if they got that far, wherever your family was in North America. But in general, they were in Central and South in the Caribbean, those slaves. Um, but people, what I'm trying to say is, I'm sorry if I'm trying to make sense, is you have to prove, like a lot of people don't want to accept they might have a certain last name they think is white, right? Oh, that's a European. I don't go down that line. How do you know all these people are white? These want to be Black Europeans, and if so, and if you think these are just slave masters or white people that pass the name on or baptize your Indian ancestor, you got to prove that because this is what I'm saying. Like when you do genealogy, so you know most of the time it's family. It's just family. We ain't talking about nobody just getting raped or 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 that somebody got baptized an English last name because the owner took them over. That did happen. But there's cases of that. Like you can like this most of the time you can kind of like go back to it. And if you don't know, it's kind of like guessing. That's what I'm trying to say is we tend to be biased. So
mhm,
we
Hmm.
assume, we assume we're not thinking about it, but we assume that we just 100% Indian, you know, that's it, because I'm Black and that's it, you know, because the Indians were Black, you know.
mhm,
But in reality, America was very diverse. Ancient America had every phenotype, had every type of hair, every shade of copper complexion, like lightest copper to the darkest copper, you know, like many shades of it. So that's what you call Negro, Black, dark, light. You know, it's to me, it's all like we didn't classify ourselves back then by color. You know, we were just family, we were just clans and tribes and stuff.
mhm, mhm.
100%.
So I want to kind of get a little more broad about this scope. Um, do you feel like, because I know that Graham Hancock has been doing studies of a global civilization. He has his shows and stuff on Netflix and things like that that speak on this. How do you feel about that? Do you think that maybe before pre-flood that there was a global civilization?
Yeah, why
Not
not?
necessarily Atlantis, because a lot of people bring up Atlantis. When I say global, I mean all over the globe.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, Atlantis people, when they bring it up like a myth. But we
Mm,
just talking about the ancient Americas. Is real land, real people. It's not myth.
mm,
So us coming out of Americas, bringing civilization to other parts of the world, that definitely happened, and that's what the thing is, it's so easy to believe it happened out of Africa, but when we have proven telling you, look, it might have happened out of America more, right? Or this part of the world, this part of Pangea, if you want to go with Pangea, you know, um, it happened. We got the proof, and we're showing it, and so it's impossible for people to accept that. But it's so easy to go with Darwinism and theories that we can't even prove. It's a theory. Theory is not a fact.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you think that the Shi or the Olmecs, as they call them today, do you think that they were so-called black people? If so, how would you prove that?
Yeah, I think the Olmec civilization was like a melting pot. I think it was a epicenter of the world. Like when you're talking about you just asked me a world empire.
Mhm.
Like today, New York is a metropolis. I think the Olmec civilization, a lot of the Mayas were the metropolises, people from different parts of the world. Like the reason I'm saying that is, yes, they had people that look so-called black. The Olmec heads tell you right away. There's no denying it. There's some other Olmec heads, different kind of phenotypes. You can kind of compare it with other people too. But there's also the
Mhm.
pottery, the ceramics, the stone sculptures, and we also find Negroid stone sculptures, but we find other phenotypes too with the Olmec civilization that a lot of the Black Indian folks don't want to talk about. Uh,
Right.
and so that's what I'm saying. Maybe it was people from different parts of the world. So who's the Western Chia in China or in Asia? There's a connection here with the Chang dynasty and the Olmec. I have videos on this. So it's not just one look, but yes. Who were these people? I think these were ball players, and these are like picture of LeBron James back then. When I'm talking about your whole empire depended on that game, when your life, your whole everything, and you got people like LeBron and Jordan's back in those times. These are like superheroes. These are not just like they're saving lives by winning. You understand? This is how civilized we were. We had enough time to have leisure in sports, cheerleading, competition, teams, different sides, just like today, stadiums, where the word of the announcer can echo through the whole plaza.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh,
yeah. So, and there, instead of fighting, we played ball games. I have videos on this. We, you know, and we resolve the conflicts a lot of the time like that. So especially when your whole town or your royal kingship or it's on the line, your people's on the line, you become like a superhero, I would say. And I think these were like the ball players, and that's a helmet. It seems like he's wearing. They used to wear. If you look at the ball players' equipment of the Olmec and the
mhm.
Mayas, it's the same thing. The Olmecs kind of
That
wear.
definitely looked
Yeah,
like a helmet. Definitely.
yeah. Playing some ancient football and stuff.
Most definitely. Why do you feel that the people in the indigenous community, why do they think that they all Moors are traitors or Black Europeans? As soon as you mention it, they go like this, or they want to go like this, or they get mad at you. Why do you feel that?
I think that is in general more the people who were more tending to be more very pro Pan African, more. Because a lot of folks kind of knew their grandma told them, and when they started finding this out, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense than the whole African thing," and they kind of embraced it. But like I said, just learning the fact, um, even for a Pan African or somebody in the Americas that just wants to be a Black Indian only, and then finding out first that there was Black Indians, that was an emotional thing.
Mhm.
We there wasn't enough time to be able to celebrate that until we started finding out there was Black Europeans too. So now you're something else too, not just Indian. So that's an emotional. I'm just now finding out I'm Indian. I'm embracing it. I'm doing all. I'm trying to get into the tribe and do. Now you're telling me I'm Black European too, a little bit. Like, what do you mean? Like, so it's very emotional for people. I get it, but most people who embrace it, I'm talking about the Black community, so-called Black American community, that understand they're Indians and know it now and the genealogy and everything. And they start understanding their Black European side and they embrace it. They start feeling even more empowered. They start realizing how deeper their ancestry really goes and how special it really is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I get why people, like you're saying, they do get it's an emotional thing because you don't want to attach yourself to something you thought was white or the enemy the whole time. Everybody wants to be the good guys, assuming the Indians were the good guys only. You know, everybody wants to be like before. Everybody want to be the cowboy, not the Indian, because the Indians were the bad ones, right?
Mm.
Now it's kind of reverse. Everybody want to be the Indian, not the cowboy. But the Cowboys were you too. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Exactly.
The Cowboys
Yeah,
were
but
you.
I have a great grandmother who refused to watch the Westerns because of that. She was like, they depict us all wrong. That's how she said, and she wouldn't watch it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's just the trauma of the lies, and now we're healing. But then now you're trying to attach us to the lies. We thought it was different. We had a whole different perspective of Europe and Europeans, you know.
Mm.
So
It's
To me, I think
interesting
it's
now too because
sorry.
people have their different perspective of Africa now as well. We've done genealogy before where we find prestigious royal African, ancestry, and they get upset about that.
Yeah, we had
It's
somebody
because
get
they,
mad, steaming
yes.
mad. We found their like this guy thought he was an Indian, but I'm not saying he's not, but I didn't find it. Maybe someone else might or whatever, but the records was not there. But he was like he was related to an African king in Nigeria. And he just was like, that ain't me. You're doing my genealogy wrong. But it's just all the information that he'd given me. To me, I think that if you have, Black European, whatever the case may be, it's tying you to land instead of you just being a crayon color.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like genealogy is very complex. Our ancestry is very complex. It's not one thing. It's not generalized. You know, it's very complex, and accepting all your ancestors is just in general will get you to know thyself even more. Uh, you know,
Absolutely. What do you think is the original name that the indigenous people called America?
hmm. I think that there was different nations, so I think that there was different probably names depending on different peoples. It's hard because like when we talk about America's a true old world, some people might call it Canaan, some people might call it Atlantis, some people might call it whatever. So um, I think that we did find the word American, though. At least we know it's an actual American thing. It's not from a European. It's
Okay.
not because Vespucci came. Albert, his name is Albert actually. Amerigo is Albert. So that's not why we were named America. So, but what different people called it, they had different names. They had a lot of different names. I found so many different uh, ways people call their land or the motherland. Yeah. Mayab is one. Mayab. That's the Maya.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before. I heard that more like South America. I heard that before.
Hmm.
That's a good one. Okay, let's see.
So with the realization that the indigenous of America are of darker hue or are so-called Black people. Why do you think that like Native Americans hate that truth or disrespect that truth or can't seem to accept it?
Yeah, I think that we have to kind of like, and it's hard. We have to kind of keep reminding ourselves or practice it. Not all Native Americans are the same. Just like all Black folks not the same or white folks not the same. Many do. Many are really actually good people. Like they most so-called Native Americans though are just as ignorant as just any other Pan African that hates on me or any white racist guy who hates on me because I'm showing Black Europeans. They're just
Mhm.
as ignorant. They don't know any better. They've been lied to. They've been told lies to. Hey, this is what the Indian looks like. You the Indian, and that's it. And they're not Indians. And so most of the ones that get disrespectful, like I don't think they even a lot of those are like actual leading members of the tribe, or maybe they are though. The five civilized got some. They're very rude and stuff. They're not even Native American. They're like white, but um, in general, like they're not even part of the. They don't hold the view of all the people they represent. It's just unfortunately the bad people make the most noise, usually online. the biggest roles. The good people tend to be more quiet in the background. That's what I find out. So yeah, unfortunately, just I think ignorance around the world, uh, in general, makes people act like that, just like the bad Native Americans.
Do you get a lot of that directed to you, with you putting out this information?
I'm sorry.
Do you get a lot of that directed towards yourself, being that, you put out this information?
Yeah, I get, like I said, I get hate from every hate group, every category of whatever people want to call
Wow.
themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody's mad. But I'll tell you, I'm gonna be really honest with you guys. And this is something like people just don't. A lot of these are surprised when I say I get trolled more by black folks than any other group.
I would imagine.
So, Native Americans ain't bothering me that much like that, like black folks or white folks that much, like or even Hispanics or anybody, like mostly black folks that are upset, either
Mhm.
with some topic, one of the topics.
And that's crazy because you can't really, I feel like it's because the way you look. You never know anybody's genealogy. I mean, you don't know. You see what I'm saying? Like they could go back to so-called white people and you just look like that now because of like admixtures or whatever. We shouldn't go off people's looks. We should not do that. I think that is stupid because
Mhm.
especially if you're bringing out this truth and you're saying that we are indigenous here, why should we matter? Why should it matter the way you look?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. Because it was always about look, they indoctrinated us to, oh, this guy looks like this, he's probably African, or this guy he's a
Mhm.
Mexican. Everybody calls me Mexican. I'm from Costa Rica, so it's just stereotypes, prejudices that are put into us. I think us as the people who are becoming conscious and aware of who we are and everything should be like role models and be the bigger person and and guide the good ones and just ignore the bad ones. Eventually they're gonna somebody's gonna teach them a lesson or whatever. They're gonna have to learn the hard way. You know,
Right.
that's just life. But there is a lot of good people out there that can be reached, and we shouldn't separate ourselves with them just because they look a certain way. So I tend to see a lot of groups I get added to, and it's like all so-called black folks, right? I'm like the only person from Central America or anything, and they never really thought of integrating other people because it's just we tend to separate ourselves in these fake
Mhm.
borders and these complexions and everything, and we might be more related than you think, you know. Um, so it's just I think we tend to do it ourselves too much, not realizing that we are doing segregation too,
Mhm.
and yeah, unfortunately the bad ones speak the loudest, so we tend to judge everybody on them. Yeah.
Do you have any see, I always felt like you should write a book. Do you have one in the near future coming up?
Yeah, I actually already have almost a Abraham Lincoln book, just proving his, all the primary sources. I'm literally almost done with that. And then
Awesome.
I also want to have a book with the primary sources of all the different descriptions of American Indians, describing them as dark complexion people, and also the different uh, uh, phenotypes and stuff that were here. So I want to get all those kind of put into a book for people to just have right there as reference. Uh, and then just in general, yeah, like I guess I can eventually just start writing about almost every topic I've done, in more detail. It's just, I'm not a writer. I've never really sat down and written anything, so it's like challenging, you know, uh, to make the time and do it correctly and everything. But I'm working on
I think that'd be dope. I'll definitely be the first to buy it.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I love and appreciate your work. With all the hate that you get, what keeps you going? Because you be batting out videos. I'll be watching one. I'm like, damn, he got another one out. I gotta watch this one too. What keeps you going?
Yeah. So it's I believe, my opinions that these kind of things are not for everybody, right? Uh People like you motivate me. You know what I mean? People that want the truth non-biasedly and are just searching sincerely. That's what kind of motivates me to keep going. Like I said, this is something I've been into since I was a kid. So and learning about how deep the lies were at a young age kind of made me be able to mature in a way where I can be able to take on, certain negative people. And as the years go by, it gets even a little easier because I am human. I have backlash at people and I responded a certain way because I feel like I feel like I have a superpower because I meditated on it. I prayed to the Most High to always expose bad people, put me around good people. So I feel like that's always on, and like a lot of the bad people get exposed or their spirit kind of battles. They're not even knowing, and they react, and I just could tell right away you're bad. Like you're not in my frequency, man. So I'm ignore you, and then I focus on people like you guys, which I have a lot. And these are the people that this is what I'm saying. You don't make noise like the trolls, but you're there. I know you're there. So that's what motivates me to keep going. And the fact that I get testimonies from people that follow me. Yo, you talking about my family? That's correct. I'm Huguenot. I'm Acadian with Indian. It's the exact same thing you're saying. Like everything. Like there's no like, oh no, this part was wrong. Like everything. Like man, you're the closest you have, been to saying my whole family, like the whole real history. So I get a lot of great testimonies. I see things in the news popping out, like right, like now, oh, new finds shows that so that we know they're watching. We know the world's becoming aware. We always knew that because Most High is in control always. Not this ain't because of me, a drop, or we're just part of the wave, the flow, the water. Just being part of that Hawa, the water, is what motivates me. Most High literally keeps me motivated.
Absolutely.
That is
Yeah.
beautiful. Spirit led. We do still have a little bit more time that we can utilize here. I know you work on things a lot. And you just brought up some books that you're working on. Are there any other things that you've been studying as of lately that um, you want to talk about or discuss, or maybe just kind of segue into so people know what you got coming?
Oh yeah, I always got a lot of topics on the background that I'm working on researching. I'm trying to the same thing I do in the Americas is do it on the other parts of the world and help people understand who they are as well, like a more better history, like the African tribes or the Asian tribes, in Europe. So I'm getting more and more deeper into that. I'm hooking up recently with the French community around the world. I'm not talking about French from France. I'm talking about people who speak French, right? Martinique
Mhm.
and America and Africa, all over the world. And they got some interesting research, because of the language barrier. We never knew that we were, but they're getting on some real deep stuff about certain people in Africa being from the Americas or Asia or other parts of the world, talking about Black Caucasians, certain West Africans being original Black Caucasians, things like that. This is stuff that is too deep right now. So to me, my style is I like to talk about certain topics first to get people to ready for what I'm about to show them. So I'm kind of always prepping people. Sometimes I go back and show older videos, kind of do reviews just for the new people. But yeah, we're just gonna get deeper and deeper. It's so many things we're finding out now that we have a correct orientation and foundation, right?
Mhm.
We know what to look for now, and so
Right.
the history of the Europe and Africa and all that. We're gonna get into with the local people. This is the thing, not just me, you know.
That is beautiful. Could do some traveling and things, huh? So the topic is about the original inhabitants all over the world. So we have Asia, and I know a lot of people. Some people believe that the Asians were of dark complexion, um, ancient Asians, and then there are those who don't. I know that there is evidence of like a Buddha statues that show the certain hairstyle, hair texture, and the wide nose and things like that. But there are still some people who don't seem to be able to grasp this, that don't equate one thing with another. You also have in like Thailand and Cambodia, you have Australia and all these different places. What are your views on that?
Yeah, like yeah, all over the world. There's so-called black folks, melanated people all over the world since the very ancient times, and they didn't all just come out of Africa. Um, there is depictions, like you're saying, of these people. All their deities are depicted like that. The dark skin with the hair, the woolly, everything, the phenotypes. You'll find a lot of those phenotypes in Africa today. The same people and the statues that you're seeing in ancient Asia are in Africa, literally. Like this is what I was just talking about. We're gonna show. Like I already have 3 videos on the Shona people. I recommend this. Like if you guys are interested in this specific topic about the African people, the Shona people. I also have about the Lebu people and the Hausa people, Borno, and they all coming from, you know, India, Persia, Yemen, Saudi Arabia. They're the tribal leaders' oral history. It's not me. I'm showing you the horse from the horse's mouth. And the migrations do show that they came into West Africa very recently in the Middle Ages, not anciently. So this is like that's what I'm saying. This is gonna be very surprised if they're not ready. Like they're gonna be even more disappointed if they don't get on the bandwagon. They're gonna. So, when we talk about oldest groups in Africa, like we're talking about the Khoisan, San people, Bush people, Hottentots, whatever they call them, and they got the Pygmies, and then we got the Berbers. Those are actually the oldest groups in Africa. Everybody else just came in. Everybody else came in, literally, from all other parts of the world.
Video that you have, or you're about to?
Yeah, I have a video. Would you like me to? I'll send you the links.
Yeah, please. I definitely want to see that one.
Yeah, you'll see. So this is what I'm saying. So I'm gonna get more into that. I'm gonna pick up where I left off with these research that I did. You'll see what I'm talking about. And be like, wow.
We're looking forward to that.
Definitely. Yeah. And so, sorry, when it comes to the Asians, because we were talking about it. So that's what I meant. A lot of these Asians ended up in Africa and the Americas, their cousins, there's Europe, or just still there, like the Andaman Islanders, right? If you just Google what they look like, and most people say, oh, yeah, that's definitely an African. Oh, yeah, he's definitely. These people's haplo, right? I don't know if it's Asian. It's not from Africa at all.
Right.
Now, did it come from America? That's probably your, they start off in Asia where they want, that's what they tell us. But does it really start off there? So, but either way, it's not from Africa, and they're darker than a lot of Africans. Like they have their phenotype is what people want to consider an African, right? A Negroid person, and you see a lot of Africans don't look nothing like that. Africa's very diverse. Africa is very, very diverse, different phenotypes, different hair types, and that's what people tend to forget with the whole out of Africa theories. Like it's not one look.
Yeah. Do you think that the reason why a lot of this is a lot of confusion and stuff going on with this is because there's been a change to the timeline?
Yeah, there's different chronologies. I mean, that can cause a big confusion for sure. Because then you got duplicates, phantoms, and you got duplicates, meaning there's one story that they duplicate two or three times, and it's the same story actually. They just put one in 1800 BC, one in 300 AD, and the other one 1000 AD. Just for example.
Interesting, because people keep saying that there's several different floods that took place. And it's almost like they're layering different civilizations on top of each other, and just the way they're trying to make it valid is to say, oh, this cataclysm happened and it pushed them out, and so another people came in and they just took over what they had left.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't think everything was always that simple as that, but yeah, definitely has been cataclysms or kind of like resets that make people have to start over in a way. Um, but I think that when you look at the ancient people's stories about, their ancient world, most of them have 4 or 5 different ages, right? So like the Maya, the Hindu, and all of them have the same type of ages. Like there was the age of fire, then the age of the water, then the age of this, and when they average out, and this is in a future video I'm going to do. I remember I was reading this, and I just haven't done the video, but when they started looking into all these people's stories and comparing really the numbers based on the astronomy, not what you interpreting, you know, um, there was an average of 40 to 50,000 year span. It's almost like the same story, just being told, carried over. It's the same story though, it's just being carried over different parts of the world.
Do you feel like we were all together at one point? That's why like some of these stories sound the same?
A lot of people were, yeah, spread out. I couldn't say, yeah, we were all together. We were not, they were still trying to dig on all that. We just know when it came to what we know of history or prehistory, it's all pointing to America, you know? So whether there was a reset before that, and then there's all thousands and millions of years we don't know about, whether there's other worlds underneath where we lived underground or we came from the poles,
Mhm.
it's a lot of things we're researching,
Well, I think there's a lot of information that's definitely being hid from us and
Yeah,
a lot of books to get into. There's a lot. I think we all have a piece of the puzzle that we have to put together. And I
yeah,
think channels like yours is definitely bridging the gap. That's what we're here for. Like I said, we don't hate on anybody. We don't care. We had an African on the show. We have Aboriginals. We have Moors, like whoever. We want people to bring the information and then we piece it together. That's what we're about unity. That's what we're about here.
awesome. That's what needs to happen more.
Absolutely. I definitely agree.
Well, I really enjoyed this. I really, really did. And you are welcome to come back anytime you like.
Absolutely.
Um, is there any final thoughts or anything that you would like to share with people before
Yeah,
we
just to have an open mind and at least verify what people are saying, try to see what kind of sources they have, what kind of information they're providing you. Don't just believe everything. I could be saying all this and making it all up, but that's why I try to show in my channel like why I'm saying all this stuff. And so just kind of hold everybody accountable and yourself accountable for the things you believe in. What evidence do you have for your beliefs, and can you prove your own beliefs, and so that's kind of what got me into my channel, let me prove my own beliefs. And I've been able to like see what was more correct, what was not, and just have an open mind, see, verify, research the research, right? Research the research, see what we're showing, verify it, and conclude from there. Don't we got to get off the beliefs, because they wanted us to just live in a world of beliefs, like they just wanted us to kind of believe everything, not know.
Mhm.
So it's a big difference of knowing and believing. So kind of like what I want to people to think about.
Absolutely. It
Absolutely.
is most definitely important for you to do your own due diligence. We can sit and listen to everybody. We can sit like we were in school, right? And they taught us a bunch of off information, is what I'm gonna say. You know what I mean? We spent all those years in school. And now we're at a phase in our lives, and it seems like it's a more widespread thing now. So where we're seeking truth. And so please be a big support of our brother here, Curimeo. You can go to his YouTube channel, which is Curimeo Ahau on YouTube. You can go to his Patreon as well if you want to go there and get some more information, some deeper information. It is patreon.com/Curimeo. You also have your Instagram page, right? Which is Instagram.com/Curimeo_Ahau. All that information should be showing up on your screen as well. Um, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for being here, taking the time out to speak with us. Um, I'm sure after this, we're going to have 1,000,001 questions, and hopefully we can pour them out to you on another show at another time. At this point, Nico, you want to say anything?
I just
Nah,
want to
yeah.
thank you for
Oh,
coming on.
go ahead. Sorry.
I didn't know if she was talking to me or you. My bad. I'm sorry. But I just want to thank you for coming on. I mean, it's like a million, like she said, 1,000,001 things you could be doing, but you came here with us. We definitely appreciate that, most definitely.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being on. Thanks for inviting me, just giving me the time. And definitely, if anybody like to have me back on or have more questions, we could definitely do another one.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. All right, with that being said, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. You could be anywhere in the world, but you are here with us. This is Peace Pipe TV. I'm Phoenix, and this
I'm
is,
Nico.
and we want to say it should be Shalashake.